The art of attentive listening. Sharing a great story doesn't begin with you telling yours. It starts with listening to others tell theirs. To tell a good story, you must love listening to them and be fascinated by stories. By listening attentively to the stories of others, you learn to craft your own. Attentive listening is one of the things that the leaders of AISDA, the Stars-grantee NGO that works to stop female genital mutilation in Ethiopia, and which I mentioned in Chapter 4, do best. They wouldn't get very far if they just insisted on their own agenda and simply demanded that adults stop cutting their girls' genitals. Rather, they listen very closely to the grievances and problems of the people whose language they speak, because they come from the same region, and try to help, even if that help isn't directly related to stopping FGM. Because lack of water and the degradation of pastureland are two of the biggest problems the Afaris face. AISDA helps with water resource management and farming assistance. They provide the people with small grants and access to education. They gain trust. Unfortunately, very few people know how to really listen in the way that the AISDA leaders do. In engagement after engagement, I discover that many people are wonderfully adept at not listening. They barely listen with half an ear. They check their smartphones incessantly. They look around for some other distracting, shiny thing. They obsess about their own responses, beliefs, and thoughts without hearing the other person out or being open-minded enough to be persuaded of a different point of view. They miss what is most important in the moment, which is the speaker's deep desire to be listened to feel connected, to have their story heard, respected, and honored with the other person's full attention. The art of attentive listening is, first and foremost, an act of both deep empathy and emotional intelligence. It's about giving someone else your complete and undivided attention. Such listening requires patience, one of the most important skills to cultivate, though practically everything in our lives today hinders it. Attentive listening is a craft to be mastered. My father was an amazingly attentive listener. You have 2 ears and 1 tongue, he would advise me. So listen twice as much as you talk. After meeting with him, people told me, I have never seen someone who listens like him. He always held his hand below his chin and kept eye contact with the person speaking. He listened with an absorbed excitement, as if he didn't want to miss a word. People's admiration for this skill taught me a lot, and I've tried to emulate it. Once, when my company was launching a housing project in Papua New Guinea, I met with the country's Prime Minister, Peter O'Neill, who was a master of the craft of listening. He listened thoughtfully, and when he had heard us out, he asked provocative questions. There was an observable strength in his generous behavior. Only after he had listened deeply did he begin sharing his story, building in answers to my points of view. He was able to synthesize listening with his own storytelling in a way that not only made us feel truly heard, but also made him more persuasive. Learning to be an attentive listener confers many benefits. When you listen deeply, you learn something new. You broaden your knowledge and uncover opportunities. You discover that other people's stories are fuel for your own. Indeed, I would argue that learning to listen carefully is the most important skill of all.